Last week, Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan's podcast for 3 hours, as one does when they go on Joe Rogan. And there was a common theme to the conversation.
I mean, the media is incredibly partisan.
What's fascinating to me is how much the mainstream media is in line with the very specific talking points. Everybody should be celebrating that we've found a way to cut out fraud and waste. This shouldn't be, oh no, the wrong people found this fact and now it's a bad thing. Like if you're just lying openly about U.S. aid and then they come and hear you talk on a podcast and explain what's really going on. Like he's starving mothers. There's mothers that can't get food.
Totally false.
That's all you're hearing.
Yeah.
That's no one's talking in any of these mainstream liberal talk shows. No one is talking about all this fraud and waste.
Yes, Joe expressed a lot of frustration with the mainstream media. Let's put aside the irony of the biggest podcaster in the world who is interviewing arguably the most powerful person in the world and calling other people the mainstream media, but I get the point. Joe was frustrated with the mainstream media and the fact that they weren't more celebratory over the waste, fraud, and abuse that Elon is finding, and also he was frustrated by their mischaracterizations of what is actually going on. The idea being that the mainstream media is incorrectly characterizing what Doge is doing. But there are two things that Joe Rogan is fundamentally missing when he makes these points. The first is the actual arguments that Democrats are making. Second is that Elon Musk lies a lot, and the media would actually not be doing their job better if they did what you did and just took him at his word for everything that's going on. But let's start with the first issue. The first issue is Joe is very clearly engaging with somewhere between a straw man of a Democratic argument and a shitty argument that Democrats are making. I'm sure there are some Democrats that have been going out there going, oh my gosh, starving mothers aren't getting their food. But I gotta tell you, as somebody who is pretty deeply entrenched in Democratic rhetoric, that is not the point that I have been hearing. It's certainly not the point I have been focusing on, because it does not strike me as the most provable point, as evidenced by what Joe is saying. The best argument that is being made by the Democrats is certainly about the illegality of what Elon is doing and the concern over precedence. What is the precedent you are setting if an individual who is unelected and unconfirmed by the Senate can get into the White House effectively and unilaterally make decisions about what constitutes waste? Money that has been appropriated by Congress through legal means that one man, Elon, who is unelected, has now determined is waste and is therefore cutting that program. That is the issue. And the scale of it is the issue. It's not cutting any one individual program. It's you are going in and shutting down effectively an entire agency, let's say USAID, for example, that has been created and appropriated by Congress. Now that is against the law, against the Impoundment Control Act. This is being litigated in courts right now. We'll see where it ends up. It seems like the Supreme Court is going to hear that case. But that is a very legitimate concern that in 3 hours, Joe Rogan does not address in the least, despite the fact that a very common talking point is Joe talking about what the Democrats are criticizing about Doge. But then he does not engage with the best criticisms of Doge by the Democrats. Now, I assume that's because Joe just simply doesn't know this criticism exists, because he's not actually really listening to or engaging with the mainstream media in any capacity, because he thinks they're full of shit. Second thing that Joe is missing in this entire 3-hour episode, when he talks about how out of touch the mainstream are, is that Elon Musk is a liar, like a complete and total liar all the time about shit that matters and about shit that doesn't matter. In fact, the last time that Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan's podcast, he said he was a top 20 player in the video game Diablo in the world, which later turned out not to be true because Elon had been paying people to play the video game Diablo for him. Here is the comedian Shane Gillis talking about this.
Hey, you know what politically got me fired up? What? What's the video game Elon Musk says he plays? Did you hear he lied about that?
What?
He's not even that good at it.
Are you in the top 20 in the world or top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah. He he was cheating. He had somebody else playing for him. He was video game lying.
That's
psychotic.
really weird, yeah.
You can't video game lie.
This honestly cracks me up so much because I genuinely have multiple straight men in my life for whom this was the final straw. They were like, I don't exactly know how I feel about Elon. The going to Mars thing is really cool. I think he's a really talented entrepreneur. And then they found out he was video game lying and they were like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The fact that he has a bad relationship with multiple different baby mamas, the fact that he blatantly spreads conspiracy theories about Nancy Pelosi's husband being gay, who really knows what's true anyway? Who can say? But video game lying. But I actually get it. It's such a provably untrue thing, whereas a lot of other things feel like they live in this gray area. There was another YouTube channel that talked about this situation, and the comments were just dudes who were clearly Like, this is a bridge too far. Somebody said, listen, if he wants to cheat because everyone else is cheating, fine, that's on him. But when you go around and brag about your character when you weren't the one who actually did the work, then you're just a clown. No other way around it. Elon wasn't just saying, this is my account. He was openly bragging about how good he was and how high ranked he was. Don't forget that part. The straight men are not pleased about this. But here's the thing. Even within the 3-hour conversation he had with Joe most recently, a couple days ago, he says some things that are provably untrue and arguably a lot more important than how he's ranked in Diablo. For example, Elon lays out this whole story about how the Democratic Party wants to take him down fundamentally because he is a threat to the strategy that they have, which is to import illegal immigrants into this country, turn them into voters, and then therefore keep the country blue for all of perpetuity. And one of the pieces of evidence he gives that this is their strategy, and bear in mind, the evidence that he gives for this is very scant, but one of the pieces of evidence that he does give is that in New York State, illegal immigrants are allowed to vote in city and state elections, and that there are 600,000 registered illegal immigrant voters in New York. Now, this is not true, but let's take a listen to him say it, and then we'll talk about it.
So in New York State, illegal aliens can already vote in state and city elections. A lot of people don't know that.
They don't know that because that's not true. Both the Constitution of New York State says that you must be a citizen in order to vote. The New York City Board of Elections reiterates this, that you must be a citizen in order to vote. What Elon is seemingly referring to is that in 2021, there was a movement on the municipal level, I believe, to allow permanent residents, that is green card holders and people who are permanent residents of New York City who were immigrants. They're not illegal if they're green card holders, but immigrants, to vote in city and state elections. But that was struck down by the courts in 2022. So there is no basis for the idea that illegal immigrants can vote in New York. And Elon just says that. He says a lot of people don't know this. Like, it's not true. So I say all this not to completely dismiss Elon Musk out of hand. This is what I struggle with so deeply because I am somebody who is frankly wired to like Elon Musk. I like super nerds. I like people who do unbelievable entrepreneurial feats, which Elon does regularly. I am pleased at the idea that somebody is going in and modernizing government and taking a look at what's going on. But to be so dismissive of the mainstream media is to fundamentally not understand how frequently this person lies and how much time the media, frankly, should be spending just trying to understand what is true about what this man is saying. So yeah, if they're not instantly celebrating the waste, fraud, and abuse that Elon claims he's finding, it's not just for partisan reasons, though I'm sure there's partly partisan reasons there. It's also because they're going, we don't know what of this is even true. And the irony to this is Joe Rogan is this independent thinking podcaster type. His whole brand is built on being a renegade, speaking truth to power. That's why I've liked Joe Rogan in the past. And now you have Joe Rogan sitting across from the most powerful man in the world, not asking him even his general everyman kind of questions of like, is that really true? He's not even doing that. He's letting Elon say whatever he wants, which is part of Joe Rogan's brand. But he's then criticizing the people who are actually holding power to account, who are actually trying to find out what is real and what is not. Now look, is everything partisan these days? Absolutely. Is there a dismissiveness towards Doge that is animated not by legitimate criticisms of Doge, but rather a partisan desire to say that Trump and Elon can't do anything correct? Of course there is. Am I glad that Joe Rogan exists and can provide a counterweight to a variety of different narratives, even if he is light on his own fact-checking? I genuinely am. And I think there have been times where Joe Rogan has served a very important function as a counterweight to the dominant power narrative. You had that certainly during the Democratic presidents. But now the Republicans are in charge. Donald Trump has won, Elon Musk is in the White House, and Joe Rogan is sitting there across from him. And it's just a little rich to hear Joe Rogan talk about what a bad job the rest of the media is doing when they're doing the actual holding power to account that Joe himself used to do and celebrate. And it's especially ironic when Joe is mischaracterizing the strongest and best arguments of that mainstream media while he derides the work they're doing. Now, there is one moment where I feel like I got a glimpse of the Joe Rogan that I like best. The Joe Rogan who is the everyman, who may not push back hard on his guests, but who does ask common sense questions or makes common sense points. And this comes in a moment where Elon Musk is suggesting that Kash Patel should just tweet out all of the files about JFK and saying, why doesn't Kash, if he has all this additional information about the JFK assassination, Why doesn't he just tweet it out?
He just posted to his X account or something. I mean,
That sounds like an Elon move. I don't think he can.
Yeah.
He's the director of the FBI. I think he has to go through proper channels. And
Does he? He is the channel.
yeah, but there's rules.
There are rules. Oh, sweet Joe. Oh, the sweet Joe from a time long ago where he would say the obvious everyman thing, and I would so appreciate him for it. There are rules is the perfect summation of the actual best argument being made by the left. The argument that Joe does not engage with at any point in this, even while he criticizes the arguments of the Democrats and of the left. There are rules. There are laws. Doge seems to be flagrantly breaking those. Again, it's working its way through the court system now. That is a very legitimate concern that Democrats have about the way in which the Department of Government Efficiency is doing the work that it is doing. It is setting potentially very dangerous precedents about how things will work moving forward, breaking down the separation of powers between Congress and between the executive branch. And Joe Rogan addresses and engages with that argument 0% while talking to the most powerful person in the world, all while criticizing the bullshit criticisms, the straw man criticisms that he has identified that are being made by Democrats. It's just it's all so frustrating. Anyway, that is our episode for today. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to hear me talk more about. If you're listening to this on a podcast, you can tweet at me or comment on YouTube, and I will see you next time.